Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 4th meeting of the Design and Project Review Committee. I'm Johanna Knight, and I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Evanston. We do have a quorum, so we will call the meeting to order. Is there a suspension of the rules?
I'll make a motion to allow electronically or by telephone.
Second.
Katie, are you calling the roll? Is that how we're going?
Sorry, I was finishing the template.
Okay, so please call the roll.
Okay. Knighton.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Biggs.
Aye.
Eckersberg.
Aye.
Benata.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Hyank.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
And Exendito.
Aye.
Is Mr. Rivera participating in the voting today?
I am not.
Okay.
All right, next item is approval of the meeting minutes of July 28th. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
Please call the roll.
Knighton.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Biggs. Biggs.
Aye.
Benata.
Aye.
Eckersberg.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Hyank.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
And Exendito.
Aye.
Okay, great. Minutes approved. First item of business is 525 Main Street. James Cratcho Shibel, applicant, sorry for if I mispronounced that name, submits for a building permit to close off the north garage exit with plans to create bike parking. The north driveway on Chicago Avenue to be removed and replaced with full height curb and gutter and new sidewalk, removing ATM and drive-through lanes within the garage, Wild Fork Foods in the C1 commercial district and the Dempster Main overlay district. Is there somebody on for this applicant? Anyone on for this applicant? Going once? All right. Michael, you've been handling this one, right? Michael Griffith?
Yeah, I did tell them to have somebody here just to briefly describe what they're proposing.
Well, why don't we take the next item, and if they arrive, otherwise then we'll just go make a motion to hold to the next meeting. All right, next item, 2000 Green Bay Road, preliminary final review. Robert Fritz, applicant, submits for a building permit to expand an existing parking lot. Plan includes landscape improvements, Windy City Garden Center in the West WE1 district and the West Evanston overlay district. Is there somebody on for Windy City Garden Center?
We are.
Great. Why don't you walk through what you would like to do here?
You want to do that, Bob?
You can go ahead and do it.
Okay. All right. Well, this is David Roberts, and I'm with Bob Fritz, owner of Windy City Garden. Everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you. Thank you.
All right, good. So what Bob wants to do is to basically pave the parts of his lot there that previously were Buffalo Joe's restaurant building. When he demolished that, it was left as gravel, and we came to the city so that we could put asphalt paving over that stone area. That's where this project began. As it's developed, and it's what's in front of you now, we have marked out 15 parking places, including the handicapped, and then we are showing landscaping around the perimeter on Green Bay Road and down the side on Foster. which would also include the triangular section of landscape area there at the corner of Foster and Green Bay Road. In addition to the landscaping, there would also be masonry piers delineating along Green Bay Road. In between the masonry piers will be planting that we've listed on the application there. Those are perennials, right, Bob?
Yeah, perennials.
Of various heights that we listed there, I think from 18 inches to 48 inches. Did I leave anything out of there?
I don't think so. You know, most of the parking was all existing there out of the 15 spaces. It's just from number 10 through 15 there is where that gravel area is the area that we want to pave there. And then in front of the sign, we're going to put a sign out on the corner there. There'll be a separate permit, but on that corner there'll be like annuals planted there. You know, we'll change it out for the season, you know, the spring season, the summer season, the winter season, and the fall season with different plants all the time.
I think additionally, it's important to note that, and then I think we're probably done with until you have questions. By doing this landscaping as shown here, we're increasing the amount of pervious area. So I think that's a important point.
All right, anything else to share before we ask for staff questions?
I don't think so.
All right, staff, any questions or comments?
What's the offset for the shrubs along Green Bay and Foster?
How far back do they go?
Yeah, how far away from the sidewalk and what type? I mean, is it going to come into the sidewalk area at all?
They come right up to the sidewalk basically, and in some of those areas, and it's a 3-foot strip around the perimeter there.
Okay. Is it like a formal hedge or what? Did you have a thought of what?
It'll be more like a mixed planting of perennials. It's not going to be a formal hedge, so to speak. I'll keep it, you know, planted so it's not encroaching on the sidewalk in any way there.
Okay, that was my concern. So, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Then I'll make a motion for approval of preliminary and final review.
I'll second.
All right, please call the roll.
Naiden.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Biggs.
Aye.
Eckersberg.
Aye.
Venata.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Ink.
Aye.
Tristan.
Aye.
H. Sandino.
Aye.
And I couldn't see who seconded that motion.
Chris Veneta did.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, 2012 Maple Avenue. Victor Drabsko. Applicants have requested a total of 9 variations from the Evanston zoning code to allow for the construction of a new single-family dwelling unit and a detached garage in the R4A general residential district. The applicant requests the following for the single-family dwelling unit: 2 major variations to allow the interior side yards to be 3 feet, where 5 feet is required from the north and south interior side lot lines. Zoning code section 6-8-6-7A3, and 2 minor variations to allow eaves to be 2 feet from the north and south interior side lot lines where 2 feet 6 inches is required. Zoning code section 6-4-1-9B1. For the detached garage, the applicant requests 3 minor variations to allow the eaves to be 2 feet from the north and south interior side lot lines, and also the rear lot line where 2 feet 6 inches is required, zoning code section 6-4-19B1 for the entire property. The applicant also requests a minor variation to allow a building lot coverage of 45.15, where a maximum of 40% is permitted, and a minor variation to allow an impervious surface lot coverage of 59%, where a maximum of 55 is permitted. Zoning code section 6-8-6-9A. The zoning board of appeals is the determining body for this case in accordance with the Evanston zoning code. All right, so before we get into this and have the applicant provide some comments, Katie, you reviewed this one. Do you want to just give us a high level what you looked at it? And I think we don't normally see something with 9 variations, so maybe just explain what's going on there.
Sure. So this came in as a new build permit for the new single family home and the detached garage. It was prior, I believe it was a city ordered demolition of a property, and they're coming in to redevelop the lot. There initially were 12 variations on the first submittal, and through 3 revisions, the applicants reduced the number of variations to 9. The applicant did also reduce the requested impervious surface amount from, I believe, 63 or 64% to the now requested 59%. We had advised the applicant to increase the side yard setback for the house so that it would qualify for a minor variation. It would still be 9 variations, but 2 of them are now major. And that's why the DAPR is reviewing it to make a recommendation to the ZBA now. The majority of the variations are for the eaves. And then we have the building lot coverage, the impervious lot coverage. The applicant's also doing permeable pavers instead of concrete to kind of get down the impervious. But that's pretty much, I went through 3 reviews, and this is what the applicant's wanting to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. Is there somebody on for the applicant?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. This is Victor Drapso. I'm the architect of record.
Great. Why don't you walk through what you're doing here and what you and the reasons for the variances?
Sure. So again, we're dealing with an existing lot, 25-foot lot, which is, and we kind of looked around as well. You guys probably have that in front of you as well, that this street, has plenty of lots of that size. If we would have to conform to the current code, our building is already narrow as it is because it is 19 feet wide. And if we would have to, shrink the sides, that would bring us to probably like a 15-foot building, which would definitely not be a marketable building. And going back to the lot coverage and impervious areas, if you would eliminate the garage, obviously these would also be eliminated. Problem is again, a marketable new construction, new single family would require a garage, just like all the other neighbors have garages, So I believe we have worked with the planning department to make sure that we would at least comply with the most amount of leeway that we can to make this building still fit in the neighborhood and also be marketable for the seller. So.
Katie or somebody else on the planning and zoning team, what are the lots that we normally review in the city of Evanston? We have lots that are 25 feet wide, right? This isn't a peculiar size.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, 25 feet wide is not unusual. It's not necessarily typical either. 25 would be on the small side. Typically, typically the lots are a few extra feet wider than this. So the width does create a challenge. I'm just curious if, speaking to the minor variation, if the side setbacks could be slightly enlarged, and if just to provide a little bit extra space between the buildings. But the 25-foot width is not unusual, but it's also not typical. If that makes sense.
And then we are not in a corner. We're in between the two buildings. So, you know, if that would be like a corner maybe, or an alley, we could move at least one side a little bit further out. But again, we're dealing with a 19-foot building. The width of the building itself is just 19 feet. I mean, that is just like bare minimum. You know, we also do work in Chicago. So Chicago 25-foot lot is very common. But anything that less than 19 feet of actual building is quite very difficult to sell. It just becomes like a galley almost instead of a home, you know? So that is why we do provide 3 feet of setback on each side, which also that's the, you know, it allows us to use the windows as light and ventilation requirements and things like that. So we do comply to that code, you know, the building code portion for that. But like I said, if by squeezing that building tighter than it is, it would just, like, the interior would just not feel like a home itself.
How much would a difference would it make to reduce the building footprint and width 6 inches so that it was 3 feet 3 inches on to the north and south of the house and qualify for a minor variation?
I'm sorry, how much if we would have to make that building 18-foot wide building?
If it were to be 18 feet 6 inches rather than 19 feet, how change in the interior of the home that effect?
So you're thinking we would be just doing a setback of 3 foot 3 inches on one side and 3 foot 3 inches on the other side? Is that what you're?
Correct, yes.
You know, I think, let me just also look at my floor plans. You know, I actually, I mean, if it comes down that if there would be no approval, or if this would be the part of getting us an approval, I would say we would be able to work with that, with that 6 inches.
What if the detached garage were shifted so that the variation required for the rear eave were eliminated? What if the detached garage were shifted to the east?
Toward the home? Yeah, I think we also actually talked about it because the eaves on the house, they're 1 foot overhang, right? So we would like to keep that for sure, because that would look just not right from the street. The garage eaves, we could definitely cut 6 inches all the way around. So we would have a 2.5 foot setback from the sides and the back. Is that, would that be something that be workable with you as well?
I don't have any further questions. It's the you would consider.
My concern is more about the variation on impervious surface. We're pretty serious about meeting these minimum requirements, maximum allowable impervious surface. And I realize that you're dealing with a small lot, but you exceed the impervious surface. So I'm wondering if your building can be adjusted so that it no longer exceeds and meets the 55%.
I mean, again, so making this building smaller than it is, you know, it has 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, which is typically what this type of new construction is requiring nowadays. You know, making it smaller than that would not be a marketable building. That's for sure. So I don't think I would like to cut anything from the building itself. The garage, I see that we already worked with the garage because we made it 19-foot wide garage. You know, but again, you know, by getting rid of the garage, obviously, then we would not have any problems with the impermeable areas. But that would not be a, you know, a very sellable building if it's, you know, if you don't have a garage. I mean, I don't know if there's any families that like to get a home without a garage now, especially a brand new home.
Excuse me. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm the neighbor, and I just want to make sure.
Mr. Ruby, we'll do public comment in a few minutes. If you want to hold on, then we can get the.
Make sure that I'll have an opportunity to speak. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So I guess I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but we have set these standards for impervious surfaces. And I mean, I'm not even really getting into the building lot coverage because I'm very focused on the impervious surface. And it does seem like this is really a very hardened lot in terms of the amount of coverage, which I get is because it's a small lot and you're trying to put a home on it. But that still is a potential impact to the neighborhood. So I really think that you need to look at how you get to 55%.
Member Biggs, I had actually suggested in the plan review process that they consider at least a one-car garage to reduce the building lot coverage, and then they consider an open parking pad using permeable pavers, and that would help alleviate that. I'm not sure what the math would be precisely on that, but that's something that could be considered.
I have a question on the plans. What's up on the screen right now at the garage? There's a note that says parking space with permeable pavers. What does that note pertain to? It's a garage through there, right? There's no.
Yeah, no, that's a garage. Yes. So I guess that's an error. Right. I think we were considering just a pad, and the note had remained.
As far as Evanston and people driving, this is a very walkable and bikeable community with plenty of public transit. This is very, very near public. I think it could be quite conceivable to use it, at least one garage. I would be interested to see if that would meet the permeable pavement requirements. But as far as the market in Evanston, this is a biking public transit community, particularly in this area.
Well, I mean, I'll say in that case, we'll definitely try to, you know, I mean, one parking spot is better than, you know, one parking spot garage is better than, you know, none. So in that case, we could try to alleviate, you know, at least one parking spot. Hopefully that would bring us down to the desired number. And again, you know, if we'll have to, we do want to have that building constructed for our client. I mean, if this is the case that either yes or no, then obviously we'll do our best to convince the client that this is still the only way to do it.
I don't know if any other staff have comments, but I would like to say I think this sets these setbacks set concern for precedent-setting nature. The client was probably aware of how big the lot was. You probably told them this is a challenging lot to build a home on of the size that you want. So I think if we have lots in other parts of Evanston of the size and somebody wants to build a new home, it's hard to say you can't do this or you can't not do this if we've just told somebody, well, it's a new construction, you get to build what you want because it's new construction. So I'm not seeing that there's something peculiar about the lot. I'm not seeing that there's something any particular hardship other than somebody wants the house of the size that they want. The lot is the lot. It was unique. It's specific. It's not irregularly shaped. It has alley access. It has all the things that a normal city lot would have. So I think a new house that would be built here is just going to have to be smaller and may only have one car garage. And as Jessica pointed out, we have a very strong biking and walking community here. And you literally can see this train station from the front yard of this property. So whether they take the train or not, homes that are near transit often don't need two car garages or even any car garage, because people can utilize the many choices of transportation. And one of the things we see sometimes in Evanston is two car garages may house one car, but then they house a lot of storage. People ask for additional parking, they use additional parking, or maybe they even sell the parking to somebody else in the neighborhood who needs another parking space, like a student or a commuter or anybody else. So I am reluctant to think about a two car garage being a necessity in this location, also particularly considering its adjacency to downtown Evanston. So I do want to see if there's any public comment before I do that. I think it sounds like maybe before you go to, Katie, this is going to ZBA and when?
Sorry, my computer is acting up. It is scheduled to go to the ZBA on Tuesday, August 24th. The notice is set to be published this Thursday for that, and the mailings have also been set.
Okay. I mean, I think if it goes to the ZBA, it probably should have, you should think about working with your client to reduce the number of variations if there are any still. But my position right now would be to not support the recommendation. We don't decide this, we make a recommendation, but, and it sounds like my colleagues would be leaning towards not supporting these variations because it seems like this is a want, not a need or something that's unique to the property. So.
Well, I mean, in that case, like I said, I think we could work with 18.5-foot wide building, and I will do my best to see if how we could reduce that garage to a one car garage. Because again, the client does want to develop this site. So, all right.
So,
okay, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question. And I don't want to forget that we have a neighbor there that we also want to hear comment from, but we're talking about making some, not just one change, but multiple changes to the building. Is it worth holding it, or should we move it on with conditions? Because I do have concerns about the 55% being.
Well, let's hear from public comment from Mr. Ruby, and then if there's anybody else who'd like to speak after that, we can take that comment and let's make a decision as a group. So,
okay.
Mr. Ruby, if you'd like to, you have a few minutes here to make comments if you'd like.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Thank you for letting me comment. I sent an email off to Bobby Burns. I didn't have any of your emails, so I didn't send it to you. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read my email to you, which I think will cover all the points that I'd like to make. I'm not really sure the exact process. It sounds like you make a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeal, but they ultimately make the decision. So I don't know how much influence your decision has on their decision. I'm assuming that if you're going to be publishing and sending out notices, I'm going to get a notice about the 24th meeting that I would plan on either attending in person or in Zoom. But let me just read my email. I think it will cover all of the salient points that I'd like to make, okay? Thank you. I'd like to express my strong opposition to their request for the 9 zoning variances, especially the 3-foot side yard setbacks. I know that Larry Lilja, the owner of 2014 Maple, the property owner to the north, also strongly opposes their request, as does Clyde and Sheila Brown, the owners of the property of 2018 Maple. By the way, just an aside, I got an email, which I also forwarded from Larry Lilja, that indicated that his home is built, I believe, about 2 feet from the property line on his south side. So the requested variation will definitely, quote, have a substantial adverse effect on the use enjoyment, or property values of adjoining, touching, or adjoining at any point, line, or boundary properties. I am particularly concerned because my building, which was built long before I was on this earth, is only set back about around 2 feet from my north property line. If they build only 3 feet from their south property line, the total distance between our buildings would only be 5 feet, or 1/2 what would normally be the required distance between buildings. This creates a number of issues. One, concern about disrupting my foundation. This exact problem occurred across the alley when the property was recently built at 2019 Pratt. The owners of 2015 Pratt had to sue the developer because of the damage done to their foundation and the distance between their buildings, was slightly less than 10 feet. Fire safety issues. Should a fire occur in either our buildings, the likelihood of it spreading from one building to the next greatly increases. Also, the close proximity of the buildings present challenges to firefighting that requires some adaptation from a traditional residential response. And I gave a couple links to some supporting evidence to that. Number 3, privacy issues. With their building only about 5 feet from my building, there would be very little privacy, especially since I have 10 windows on the north side of my building. Number 4, safety issues. With such a narrow distance between our buildings, the possibility of nefarious actions taking place are greatly increased because of reduced visibility. Number 5, access issues. Access to the north side of my building to do repairs, painting, etc. would be limited. Number 6, noise issues. Noise transmission issues would be more likely once their building is built, and construction noise levels would be even worse during construction. The owner of 2012 Maple is a builder who builds a number of homes throughout the city and suburbs each year, including some at Evanston. So they should have been fully aware of the lot size and zoning requirements before they purchased the property. To plead hardship is not a viable argument when they should have had prior knowledge before deciding to purchase the property. Plus, this is not a poor ma and pa situation where hardship truly exists. They are building this home solely to make a profit. The purpose of the variation is totally, quote, based exclusively upon a desire to extract income from the property. I'm sure Victor Dropso, if I pronounce your name right, Victor, is a highly qualified architect who can design a 15-foot wide home that is, quote, practical and would, quote, allow for comfortable living space. Those are my comments. And by the way, I didn't even address the issue about impervious surfaces, because that's another issue all entirely. I mean, that's more about, like waters, build up and things like that. That's not my main concern, although that is a concern as well. But I think I outlined my concerns, and I can tell you that, the neighbor to the north has the exact same concerns that I have. And I kind of decided to be the representative of it. And the neighbor to his north at 2018, I mean, it doesn't directly affect him because he's not an adjoining neighbor, but he has voiced a strong concern about this as well. Okay.
All right, is there anybody else who's on for public comment? All right. So I think, go back to what Laura Biggs mentioned in terms of holding this item for until the next meeting. We can do that, or we can move it forward, but I'm not sure whether this will provide you will get a positive recommendation at this time. So do you want to try to talk to your client and come back with something revised at this point?
Well, for sure, I believe that we could, we could provide that, 6 inches, of the building. So it could be 18.5-foot building, which will allow 3.5-foot side setbacks from both sides. That I think it is a possibility. I don't think 15-foot building would be a possibility, because that would be, I could design it, but then no one would buy it. So that's something that we have to definitely think of, unless there's a specific client. So, but and definitely we could work out that portion with the garage. I mean, again, if it means that if it's just one parking, covered parking, or maybe even just 2 exterior parkings, I mean, I think that would be the call, you know. So but I think we will be able to make these impervious areas numbers work.
By the way, just I want to be on record as saying 3-inch additional setback is meaningless. I mean, that doesn't change anything that I said. 3 inches is nothing. You know, I'm surprised that that was even brought up as a suggestion. That doesn't have any, it doesn't change anything as far as I'm concerned. And you know, I mean, you know, unfortunately my house, which is grandfathered in, was built a long time ago. And unfortunately for them, it's only set back about 2 feet off of the property line. So, you know, I don't have any choice. I can't pick my building up and move it, you know, another 3 feet to set it back. They do have a choice. They went in there knowingly, knowing that the property was 25 feet wide, knowing that the 5-foot setback requirements were what the requirements were, and yet decided to move forward. And by the way,
wait, Mr. Ruby, we gave you your time, so now we got to get staff time. I appreciate it. And if you have anything else, you can feel free to send it to us, and we will.
Just one other question. One other question. Just I don't know again procedurally how it works. Were people given notice about this meeting, or is that not normally the case? Because I never received any notice other than I reached out to Bobby Burns and asked what was going on, and he told me about this meeting.
So I am one of the liaisons to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Design and Project Review Committee provides a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So this is staff recommending body, and the notice that is required is the agenda that's published the Friday before. The notice for the formal public hearing at which testimony is given, which so you technically have 2 opportunities. But the Zoning Board of Appeals, their notice, you're going to be getting something in the mail by the end of this week or next week for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.
You had mentioned it's the 24th. Do you know the time of that meeting and where it's going to take place?
It will be at the Civic Center on the 2nd floor in the council chambers at 7 p.m. August 24th. Okay. And the applicant decides to proceed in another route. And a point of clarification, Chair Knighton, if the applicant is to reduce the interior side setbacks from the north and south lot lines to be the 3 feet 3 inches, and then it qualifies for a minor variation, would this body still make a recommendation on it, or is it then referred back to the zoning administrator?
If this is not traveling on to ZBA, if it's just a minor variance, it would just travel to the zoning administrator. Okay. And they know, and for Mr. Ruby and others that are on the call that are wondering, and I know you know this, and most everybody else knows this, a notice for a minor variance is different, and it goes out, and there are a comment period that people can provide comments to the zoning administrator. So it's just not a public meeting. It's comments provided to the zoning administrator. So I think what makes sense right here is to hold this until we have a better sense. So Katie, this has already been published, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So why don't you talk to your client and see what the client is willing to do, and then we will provide further direction on what we do. But we can hold this for till the next meeting that's still before the 24th. And we can still provide direction on this. So right now, this still is being presented as having the 9 variances, which is consistent with what was published and will be noticed. And if that changes, that information will be updated and provided in the materials that would go to ZBA. If it's not, we will provide that information as well on the city's website. I
have one more question. What was in this lot before?
I think that was back in the day. It looks like that was some kind of a storefront.
Actually, Angel Schnur's on here, and can provide a staff what was there and the history there. And then Mr. Ruby is the neighbor. He can also tell us what was there too. So Angel, why don't you tell us what was there?
Sure. When we conducted the inspection of the property prior to its demolition, we found that there was a storefront of some sort, it looked like, and they had transitioned it into more living space as opposed to just being a storefront. And then I did not go upstairs, but my understanding is there were some sleeping rooms upstairs. One of the other inspectors went upstairs. So it was like a mixed use at one point, and then the previous owners just took it all over and used it as habitable space. There, one of the owners was living there.
I think that it goes a lot deeper than that. The property was basically vacant, was in great disrepair. So I'm happy that it's been torn down. It came about, the city finally decided to demolish it because of my actions, because I was afraid that the building was going to fall into my building. There was a point at which it was about 2 inches away from my building, and finally it was demolished. But there's a long story behind it. It was sold by that owner to one buyer who thought she was going to do minor repairs. When she realized that there was no way that she was going to do minor repairs and move in there, and that it needed to be demolished, she hired the contractor that's trying to build it to build a home for them. When she realized that the cost to build it was going to be substantially more than what she was budgeting to do it, she ended up selling it to them. And so that's how the current owner got the property. I believe she actually took a loss when she sold it to them. And, and now again, for me, I have nothing, I'm in the real estate business. I have nothing against developers. I work with developers all the time. I just think that in this particular case, there was very clear understanding about what this lot was all about and what they could or could not build. And for them to come and try to build a 19-foot wide home that's in a lot situated between two homes that have 2 foot.
Okay, Mr. Ruby, we're going back into opinions and feelings and not history. Thank you for that.
Right, no problem.
So your concerns are noted.
I'm passionate about it.
Yes,
okay.
Understood. Okay, so why don't, if somebody would like to make a motion to hold the item, that would be great.
Could I just make one more comment?
Of course, yes, please do.
Sure. I hope your civil plans will reflect that the sidewalk has to be replaced and the parkway has to be restored to grass.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll note that in the minutes. Is there a motion to hold to the next meeting of the Design and Project Review Committee?
I'll make a motion to hold.
Is there a second? Oh, thank you. And then please call the roll.
Knighton?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Biggs?
Aye.
Eckersberg?
Aye.
Benata?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Hayek?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
H. Sandino? H. Sandino?
Sorry, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so the motion will be held till the next Wednesday's meeting. For people keeping track of their calendars, we will not have a meeting on August 18th. But it looks like we will have one next week if there are revisions. So, okay, and let's go back to the first item. Did anyone show up for 525 Main Street?
I don't see the applicant.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion to hold?
I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
All right, Katie, please call the roll.
Knighton?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Biggs?
Aye.
Eckersberg?
Aye.
Benata?
Aye.
Benata?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Hayek?
Aye.
Aye.
H. Sandino?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. All right, so we have 2 items for next week. We may have a couple more items, and then no meeting on the 18th, and we'll see what the 25th fares. I'm trying to give everyone a little bit of an August break.
So I'm out next week. If you need me to find a person to replace me, then let me know so I can make sure we have.
Well, Laura, you are irreplaceable, but if you could have somebody else participate, maybe the department director or colleague, that would be great.
Okay.
Or if you want to have Chris replace you and Chris can find somebody else to replace him, you can do that too.
He's also irreplaceable.
Yes. So you guys, all of you in Public Works can play musical chairs with maybe like Michael Callahan could sit in for somebody else, Edgar could sit in for somebody else, and somebody else could sit in for Edgar. You could figure it all out. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jessica.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Nice to see you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Take care. Bye-bye.